back, Tiger Sports fans, for another episode of Tiger Sports Nation. I'm your host, Katie Moore.
And I'm Whitney Wells, and today we're going to get you caught up with the DePauw Athletics from this past week.
The football team improved their record to 3-0 this weekend with an astounding 49-0 win over Hiram. Quarterback Nathan McCahill completed 17 for 21 passes for 357 yards and threw 4 touchdowns. Jalen Smith and Gabe Quigley each had 2 touchdowns, and Robbie Ballantyne and Gus Baumgartner contributed a touchdown each. Leading the defense in the shutout against the Terriers was Luke Marsh with 7 tackles and Nate Glazebrook with 5. Matthew Coons and Rylan Irvin each had an interception. And the Tigers will host Ohio Wesleyan this weekend back in Blackstock at 1 p.m.
The women's soccer team was on the road this past week as they traveled to Rose-Hulman on Tuesday and to St. Louis over the weekend to take on Wash U in Rhodes College. The Tigers tied against the Fighting Engineers from Rose-Hulman and lost 0-4 against Wash U. They bounced back on Saturday against Rhodes with a 3-2 win. Sadie Gibson, Sydney Callisto, and Annalise Gramble each contributed to a goal in the victory. They're back in action on Wednesday when they host Franklin at 7 p.m.
The field hockey team had a big week. They shut out Earlham last Tuesday at home with a 3-0 victory. Maggie Volpe, Jessica Faley, and Lily Harris each scored a goal against the Quakers. The Tigers then went on the road over the weekend to Wisconsin to face Marion and Concordia. They collected 2 more wins with scores of 3-1 and 4-0 respectively. They'll look to continue their winning streak this Saturday at home when they host Worcester at 12 p.m.
The men's soccer team won and lost a game this week. They lost 0-2 on Tuesday at Rose-Hulman, but turned their week around when they had a 1-0 victory at home against Center on Sunday. Ty Williams scored the one and only goal of the game. They'll continue playing on Saturday at Capitol with the first kick scheduled at 1 p.m.
The volleyball team started their week of games off strong, winning the first 3 matches over Capitol at home. On Friday evening, they lost against Wisconsin Stevens Point and traveled over the weekend to Kenosha, Wisconsin to play Carthage and North Park. They fell short of victory in both games, but look to be back on top when they travel to Denison this Saturday with a game set for 1 p.m.
And finally, the women's golf team played in the Illinois Wesleyan Fall Classic over the weekend and placed 13th out of 19 teams. Becky Williams, the sophomore transfer from Otterbein University, led the Tigers with a 3-over score of 147.
And that's it for Tiger Sports this week. Now it's time for a hot topic where we talk about something from the Tiger sports world or the greater sports world that we just can't stop thinking about. Whitney, what you got?
Something I cannot stop thinking about is how the Bengals have lost 2 weeks in a row and they're now 0-2, which is extremely disappointing as I'm from Cincinnati and I'm a big fan of the Bengals.
So they've lost their first 2 games with the highest paid NFL
Correct.
player in
Joe
history.
Burrow, yes.
Okay.
Isn't that mind-boggling?
So how long have you just been a lifelong Bengals fan if you're from Cincy?
Yes.
Grown up football fan?
Yes, I've grown up loving the Bengals even though they've been on a hot losing streak ever since I was little. And then these past 3 years, once we got Joe Burrow, we made it to the Super Bowl. We've come close last year, and this year now we're starting off like this. Is kind of disappointing.
Hey, when you start off at rock bottom, there's only one way to go.
Right,
That's
exactly. What can you not stop thinking about, Katie?
I can't stop thinking about Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not a huge Aaron Rodgers fan, but I do feel bad for him.
Me
We
too.
filmed last week on Monday, just about an hour before his debut game with the Jets that only lasted about 4 snaps for him before he snapped his Achilles. So I think the big question right now is he going to let that be the last image in fans' minds of him getting carried off the field, or and he's going to retire, or do you think he's going to come back?
I think he's going to retire 100%.
You do?
What do you think?
Well, so I read a little bit about it, and it said, like, recovery can be worse than an ACL.
Oh, gosh.
For high-performance athletes, surgeons suggest surgery, so I feel like he would probably get surgery.
I agree with you.
But it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he's going to
Yeah.
let people have the last image of him being carted off a field. So I think he's coming back. But
That's valid, but he's also 39 years old. Like,
that's true.
He's pretty old to be playing football, but, I mean, good for him. But I think it'll be a tough recovery for sure if he does come back.
Well, only time will tell.
True.
Well, that's it for Tiger Sports Nation this week, guys. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Whitney Wells, and as always,
Roll
roll
Tigs.
Tigs.